One of the weird powers of sports is just that it's a bonding agent for people that wouldn't have any other reason to be connected. So
Hmm.
it's like a weird, like I said, I mean, I'm at the Cubs game and I've done this various places where it's just I'm hugging, high-fiving people I've never met before because we have this common joy over something silly and meaningless like sports. But it's just,
Hmm.
not to get over weird about it, but I do think there's an element that taps into just the human need for connection and community and it's like
Hmm.
a really easy way to do that because there's no emotional risk and there's just common interest and it there's zero boundaries as far as the boundaries that people have created.
Have you ever wondered why people get so hyped about their favorite sports teams? Well, it turns out it's not just about the game, it's about the community. My name is Taryn.
And I'm Amber. Welcome to Almost Fans, the sports podcast that's fun, a little bit educational, and will give you plenty to say when you're trying to keep up with those die-hard sports fans in your life.
All right, welcome back, Almost Fans. Today we're welcoming back a guest who made such an impact that we just had to have him back to join us again. And immediately, because he was just here with us 2 weeks ago. So we've got Dugan here with us today, and he's a pastor, a dad, a lifelong sports fan, and someone who thinks deeply about how sports shape our families and our culture. In his previous episode, he shared powerful insights about resilience, community, and the role sports can play in bringing people together. And it truly gave us this next topic. This time, we're zooming out and talking big picture, the world of sports as we experience it today in life, in culture, in the way we structure our evenings and our weekends. We also are going to explore why sports still matter so much, why they move us, bond us, and sometimes drive us absolutely nuts. He knows that because he's a Bears fan. Dugan brings both
Oh,
humor and wisdom to the conversation. He also has a way of connecting everyday experiences with deeper meaning, and we're so thrilled to have him back. Thanks for joining us again today, Dugan.
golly, what an intro and a dig to my Bears, and
Have
there's
to.
so much in there.
We have to.
I feel a lot of pressure and defensiveness, but it's a
That's how we
weird
like.
mix.
We like to start that way. Like keep you on your toes. You can't feel too
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
comfortable, and also you've got to be ready for anything. So
Well, it did not take much convincing to have me back because I had so much fun a couple weeks ago, and it will be also fun to talk about sports in a slightly with less trauma,
trauma.
or like traumatic events
Well, yeah.
around sports. So
I'm not going to say
trauma
that they're
and
equally
miracles,
equal trauma, but still a little bit of trauma with your sports
like you
fandom.
said, Bears fans. So yeah,
There's Yes, that's true. Okay, Dugan, whenever we started this podcast, we always started our episodes with what we call our hat trick. So it was our top three. And we want to bring that back to you today. And we want to ask you, do you have a top three best sports memories?
oh my goodness, I got to narrow it down to three. Okay, I mean, goodness, I can think of so many. I mean, okay, all right. I'm shooting from the hip, so here we go.
There we go.
So the oldest one I can think of is I was like 9 or 10 or something like that, and it was the day that Kerry Wood pitched his 20 strikeout game, which tied
Okay.
the MLB record. And I remember my dad and I would always go to this like old school barber shop, and it was these two like older guys who one was a diehard Sox fan, one was a diehard Cubs fan, and they were like good buds, and they'd had this shop forever somewhere in Elgin where I grew up. And so we were at getting our haircut at as the game was going on. Of course, they had the game on, and it was like every strikeout was like, oh my gosh, another one. And then we get in the car and we're listening to the game on the radio on the drive home, and we get home in time to see like the last inning when Kerry Wood pitched the 20th strikeout. And I'll like never
Hmm.
forget that day because it was historic and it was a Cub, and that was like incredible. So that was one. The first and only Bears game I went to, actually, speaking of my story a couple weeks ago, as Ava was going through all her hospital visits, at one point we spent a few weeks at a rehab center in downtown Chicago. And through some like incredible connections, one of the long snapper for the Bears, his wife got in contact, and she had met Lindsay before at like an art event or something, and they gifted tickets to me to the Bears game since we were down there, and I had never been
Oh.
to game before. I'd never been to a football game before,
Yeah.
as shocking as that might sound. And so my best friend and I got to go to the Bears game, and they hooked us up with like on-field passes, so we got to walk onto the field like
Oh my
before the game,
gosh.
and I got to say hi to the long snapper was there, and I got to thank him for the tickets, and then we got to sit and watch the. Of course, they lost, but we got to sit and watch a game. So.
Of course.
So that was my first, NFL experience. That was like really wonderful. And just in a season of like, that was like a huge blessing. So that was
Yeah.
really fantastic. And then the third one I could think of is very, very recent. It was the Cubs playoff series against the Padres this past like a month ago. And it was game 5 at Wrigley. So it was a clinching game. It was home and it was a playoff. I'd never been to a playoff game before with the Cubs. And the energy was like, the air was like vibrating. It was so
Mm.
intense the whole time. The next day I got up and I was like, my neck is sore. I think just because I was so tense, like everything going, like nobody sat down the whole time and we're just high-fiving and hugging strangers. And oh my
Amazing.
gosh, that was crazy.
Did your mom go or no?
No, that was a different game. I did
Okay.
take her to another game earlier in the year, which
Okay.
was a lot of fun.
Cool.
But yeah, gosh, that was like, yeah, that was a crazy experience.
Shout out to
I
Dugan's
would have
mom.
probably more. I would have more fun memories of Cubs games because I mean, my dad would take me at least once a year growing up, like every single year. The problem was, my dad was a very wise with money man. So
Yes. That's what we'll say.
so he didn't splurge on the mid-July Cubs Cardinals tickets on the beautiful sunny 72 and light breeze. Instead, we went like April 9th to one of their first opening series, and it was brutal. It's like, I mean, like gloves and coat
Yeah.
and hat and stuff like
Oh my
that. And
gosh.
so I don't have a ton of positive memories of that time, but it
Yeah.
was still fun to
That's fair.
go.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
perfect segue, Dugan. Speaking of moms and dads, speaking of families, why do you think sports teams and those sorts of memories and experiences you just touched on? Why do you think sports teams become such a big part of people's family stories, traditions? I mean, you had a couple examples already. Were there any other Sherbondy family sports traditions that you enjoyed with mom or dad or anyone else?
Not a ton of traditions that I mean, again, yeah, he would take me at least once a summer. We'd always go to a game. I have distinct memories of staying up late when the Bulls were in the playoffs, and
Mm.
I wasn't obviously allowed to stay up late, but when the Bulls played, like my sister and I would like drag our mattresses down into the living room so we could stay up and watch the Bulls playoff
Aw.
games. So I have a lot of fun memories of that. Yeah, it's interesting. What's funny when it comes to, I think it's different with friends and family. With family, it's interesting because there's like two ways I've seen people go. One way, which is my experience, is like you grow up in it, you're immersed in it. There's the tradition, there's the bonding, there's the memories. Like you carry on. Yeah, my dad was this fan, and I grew up around here and this fan. The other thing I've seen some of my friends do is they like rebelled against the family
Mm.
sports. You know what I mean? It was like so hardcore, and then during their teenage rebellious years, they're like, well, my dad was this, but I didn't want to. I became a fan of the rival team
Mm.
of the opposites.
Hmm.
So I've kind of seen both sides of that way that it went. But yeah, with it just was never a question for me. It just was always like Chicago sports, and to my family's credit, it was all Chicago sports, even when they were terrible. So
Yeah.
like the Bulls were good in the '90s, but the Bears haven't been good since '85, and I was one, so I don't have a ton of memories of that. And the Cubs were bad until 2016, really, when they
Yeah.
won the World Series.
Hmm.
But what's funny is, and this is pretty specific to Chicago, maybe New York would do this as well, but regardless of how good or bad the team was, every game in Chicago is always sold out. I remember it confused me
Mm.
so much watching games on TV when Bulls, Cubs, Bears would play at an away stadium and there would be empty seats. I was always so confused, like what? I don't understand. Like where people didn't buy tickets to this,
Mm.
and it was like, oh, that's not a normal thing. But a lot of people would say Chicago's one of, if not the greatest sports fan city in the country, and it's like, yeah, no matter what, that is sold out and packed because people just want to experience and support it.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if because they're New York and Chicago are both just touristy towns, like people are just they're probably not even necessarily fans, but they're filling the stadium with people who are just visiting just to get that experience. which is pretty
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
you're right. And I mean, Wrigley Field's a federal landmark. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you're right. That it's like
I didn't know that.
they say there's like there's places where, hey, if you're in this city, go visit it. And then there's places where it's like you should travel to this city
Yeah.
for this thing.
Yeah.
And Wrigley Field is one of those where it's like you would go to Chicago to experience Wrigley Field.
Dugan, you know what I was thinking as you were describing being
Yes, I do.
kids
But go ahead.
and
I do, but you can say it anyway. I
you
already
already
know.
know then. What I was thinking when you were talking about being kids and dragging your mattresses down. Our oldest is 9 years old and he's in it. He's a diehard Packers fan. I mean,
Nice.
Bucks, Brewers, Badgers, any sport that is playing. If someone has a stake in it, if somebody's mildly interested, he is all in. So in. So we let him stay up late sometimes, really just for the Wisconsin sports, goes to bed later. And it didn't cross my mind that we were making memories with him,
Oh yeah.
because he gets so stoked. We were watching the Packers game with him on Sunday, and it was a close game, and every down, every major play, every moderately important play, he was jumping up and down. He was looking at me for a reaction, and I was not really watching, so I'd be like, "Oh yeah, woo! Oh, what happened, dude?" But it never even crossed my mind that those sorts of moments or those big games that he perceives as important are memories like the ones that you still have from your childhood.
Yeah, and you had alluded to it before, but like one of the weird powers of sports is just that it's a bonding agent for people that wouldn't have any other reason to be connected.
Mm.
Like it's like a weird, yeah, it's just a weird thing where like I said, I mean, I'm at the Cubs game and I've done this various places where it's just I'm hugging, high-fiving people I've never met before because we have this common joy over something silly and meaningless like sports. But it's just,
Mhm.
not to get over weird about it, but I do think there's an element that taps into just the human need for connection and community and it's like
Mhm.
a really easy way to do that because there's no emotional risk and
Mm.
there's just common interest and it there's zero boundaries as far as the boundaries that people have created,
Mm.
such as, socioeconomical or racial or gender. Like there's no boundaries there. And so it's just a very pure communal experience, whether it's the six people in the seats around me that I'm going to high five and like make jokes to the whole time, or we're going to console each other, or the 40,000 in the stadium that we're all watching and experiencing and cheering for the same thing. So I think it taps into that, not to get too Freudian.
No, we agree. This is why we started this podcast, honestly, because we were like, there's so much space for women, especially, and this podcast is not just for women, but for anyone who wants to learn more about sports to feel more connected to other people and just keep up in the conversation. So yeah, we couldn't agree more. But I think of what's interesting about this is how you navigate this as a parent now. So
Mm,
as a dad, how are you navigating like raising kids in this like sports culture where athletes are idolized? They get more attention than people doing obviously world changing work. And sometimes they're really, really great examples of that. But
yeah.
what kind of conversations? I mean, I don't think Phoenix is like a super sports fan like you are, but as you're watching TV, he's going to start seeing you and he's going to start learning about this. So how do you navigate that? Whether you're layering up for a chilly morning practice or winding down after a long day on the move, Lululemon has you covered. Their gear is built for real life, made to support every body, every routine, and every moment you want to feel your best. From fabrics that move with you to designs that feel intentionally made, Lululemon understands that what you wear shapes how you show up. It's not just about performance, it's about confidence, comfort, and feeling at home in your own skin. Shop through the link in our show notes, and when you do, we earn a small commission. Thanks for supporting the show and helping fuel more conversations like this one.
Mm, that's a really good question. Yeah, well, first of all, neither of my kids care about sports. Ava, I can't remember if I told this story last time, but Ava, when I took her to her first Cubs game, it was actually at Miller Park, so we were living here in Madison. And so it was a Cubs game, and like it was like such a moment for me. My kid's first Cubs game with me, and we're decked out in our Cubs gear, and so we got so many pictures, and I was so excited, and I'm just holding her, like pointing stuff out. This is that dugout, and this is what they do here, and so the game started, and we got her like the little ice cream and the nachos and stuff, and we're
Mhm.
sitting and watching the game. It wasn't not much really happened, and it was about the third inning, and she looked up at me and she goes, "When's the game gonna start?"
Oh my gosh.
I
Cute.
was like, oh, I was like, maybe that's what's been going on down over there. Those people running around, that's what
That's what that
they're,
is.
It's so
yeah, that's
boring.
what's
She's like,
happening.
what is
So that was a
happening?
moment where I'm like, all right, this probably won't be her favorite thing in the world, but that's okay. And yeah, Phoenix, like oddly enough, he's built like an athlete. He's huge, and
Yeah.
he's like very tall and very strong. But yeah, just could not care less about sports. And I mean, I both Lindsay and I, when it came to parenting, we were 100% like who God made our kids to be is going to lead the way. Like we
Yeah.
are not going to we're going to push, but we're not going to force. And so I knew from day one I was never going to be the kind of
Mhm.
dad that like forced him into like be something or do something or excel at something that wasn't going to fit the way that he was made or created. So again, that became apparent pretty early, as well as what he was and is gifted in, which is more he's like super artistic and
Mhm.
creative and getting into like acting and stuff now, and he does these animations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just I think it was finding the line between, and Lindsay was really good at this more than me, of pushing him to have experiences to discover more of how he's wired, but not forcing once it got to a point where that was somewhat clear. So he's played a number of sports. I mean, he's done soccer, maybe basketball. Anyway, so he's done a whole bunch of sports just to
Mhm.
have the experience of it, but none of them clicked. And so we branched out into like this summer he did like a Lego robotics camp, and he did
Mhm.
oh shoot, what was the other thing? Like a 3D animation, a 3D printing camp. Like he did all these camps where it's like this is way up his alley, and it doesn't have to be sports.
Yeah.
At the same time, obviously so many of my friends' kids and his friends, that is just their world. Like sports is their world. And I've seen, even though it's not my world, at least right now, I've seen a lot of parents just do a really good job of simultaneously embracing that season of just kind of accepting, like, okay, we're going to be in the car a lot. We're going to be driving to games and practices and cross country. And so, hey, here's our budget for decking out the car with what kind of games and family things and books on tape and all that. Like, let's just embrace that and make it what it is, and not make the travel an annoying part, because this is just what it's going to be. So simultaneously doing that while also keeping some boundaries to say, because this is so time consuming, you can do two sports a year, and whatever one you choose, we are all in. We're going to just every practice, every game, every whatever, but it can't be five. And that's just going to completely obliterate the rest of our time. It's going to eat into like the other kids' time. As parents, it's going to eat into their time. So I've seen a lot of parents do that really, really well, of fully like having boundaries, but then whatever was in that boundary being like, we're all in, and we're doing it. But that's, I mean, it's so hard because the culture of youth sports in particular is like massive. And I mean, the amount of practices and where the practices are, and the expectation of the coaching of even telling like 10, 12, 14-year-old kids, like, if you are not at every practice, you will not play. And
Mm.
it's like, oh my gosh, why they have lives outside of this
Mhm.
team, like this is an important thing. But anyway, so I am fortunate, I guess, in a way, to not necessarily have to deal with that on a daily basis. But I feel for those parents and those kids who it's just like there's such a pressure to it, which is why I think the parents who have those boundaries, I think there's a point where the kids are like really appreciative of those boundaries, to not overextend and be like, well, I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to do what I can handle and do that to the best of my ability. And that's so much more enjoyable than trying to overstack the deck or whatever. So
Amber's brain cannot compute what you're saying right now. She is that parent who has their kid in 45 sports.
I mean, if you could do it, that's awesome. No, no, no. If that is working and you're doing it, it's in a healthy balance. That's awesome. Like that's amazing. I've seen too many times, the sport is meant to be like a blessed experience for the kid. And I've seen too many times the kid and the family become the slave to the sport. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's backwards. It should not be that way. You got to flip it and go, this is meant to be something that is a great experience for you. And if it gets to this point where now this is sucking the life out of your joy of the sport and our time as a family, that's where a line probably needs to
Yeah.
be drawn. But if you, I mean, handle
Oh,
as many sports as you can, that's
I'm not
great.
calling her out. It's just I can see her face going, "Yep, that's me.
Oh,
I
I think
am
for
that's
that mom."
exactly
for
what you did.
sure. For
I
sure
think
call
what
me out.
you
You know what?
100%
All
called
right,
her.
all right, you're right. I
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
You're
no,
right.
no, no, no. We're just like we're recovering from we've done okay. So we have 3 kids, right? And our youngest is just now this past spring has just entered into the sports scene. So all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, well this is different, isn't it?" And we're outnumbered now because there's 2 of us with cars and then there's 3 of them. And even with grandparents, it's still a lot. But this past season, it's always our hardest in the fall because there's soccer and football. Every other
Oh
time of the
yeah,
year, each kid has a primary sport. And then maybe they'll have, my daughter has Girl Scouts. That's once every other Monday, right? But aside from fall, it's all right and it's doable and manageable. But I'm recovering from a fall where it was not doable, not
for sure.
manageable. I feel like I'm still healing, and my life partner and I are discussing how we're gonna make some
Your life partner.
edits for how we're gonna make some edits for next year and
Yeah, that's
for
good.
our oldest son. Because as they get older, it's not just a every Tuesday we show up and play some football. Nope, it's like 2
Yeah,
practices a week, and then there's games on Saturdays where we're driving 30 minutes away. So
dude.
yeah, more kids makes it harder. And also, as I get older, it becomes harder because there is more time requirement. And yeah, coaches are like, you got to be here. You can't just
Hmm.
skip stuff. You got to be here if you want to play. So,
Did
and it
you
just,
both do athletics growing up?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
how would you compare that experience for you to now what it's like for your kids?
It's like, I mean, 200% more intense now. My dad coached me in soccer all the way up through whatever grade. Now we're in a club where there's a professionally trained and certified coach starting at age 8.
Oh my
Starting at
gosh.
age 8. Yeah, and we're paying a bunch of money and they're fantastic coaches and it's a great program and I love our soccer club. I wouldn't change it for the world, but
Oh, that's
it
intense.
wasn't
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't as intense. There weren't as many requirements and it wasn't as competitive. And my parents, I mean, I want my kids to be active and my husband feels the same way. But my parents back then, they were like, well, I don't care. Do you want to play or don't you want to, like, whatever? The only requirement they had was if you commit to something, no matter
Mm,
what it is, you will see it through. So
yeah.
Sure.
we make sure and have that conversation with our kids too. Are you sure you want to play softball? Because last year you did cartwheels in the outfield all summer. You didn't actually pay attention. Are you sure you want to play this before we pay the money and drive you twice a week? So it's an
Yeah. I
interesting
haven't
landscape.
because my son is only 3. I haven't really delved into that world
That's when
yet.
it starts. You better get them started
I
right now.
know.
Ah,
I
you're
feel like I'm a little
behind.
behind
Wait,
already. Gotta
he
get that.
doesn't have a personal
I
trainer
know.
and
I
he's
need to
3? Oh my
find
gosh.
one. Goodness.
It is over for him.
So done. Yeah, I feel like my main concern is obviously I'm divorced. So like finding the balance of like we were both athletes and I think dad is going to probably want certain things and like it's going to be an interesting balance in trying to like have boundaries and also like be able to navigate the like back and forth or like both being there. It sort of helps in at the same time because you're like, if it's dad's day, dad better take him, right? Like if it's my day, I'll make sure to take him. But so it sort
Yeah.
of frees me up in a sense that I think my parents never experienced, because there's my brother and I and that, but my dad was also a coach, so he wanted us in everything. He wanted us to try everything and see it through. So I don't remember it. I remember thinking I would love to be done with this sport right now, but I have 4 more weeks. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot. So I don't know.
I think I call this the Justin Bieber problem because not no offense against the Biebs,
Love
love
him.
Bieber. The problem though, and actually better example might be like Tiger Woods. The problem is because of the connection we have now through the internet to the world, we hear these stories of like Justin Bieber at
Mm.
age 7 in front of Usher, like just killing it in
Yeah.
in his vocals. And then video of Tiger Woods when he's 2 smoking a drive dead straight. And so all of a sudden there's this weird like subconscious almost expectation to go, hey, my kid or me, I need to start excelling so early
Hmm.
because I see now that there's kids and parents who like this happens and they push them and then they become world famous and rich and crazy successful. The
And
problem
have
though is
lots of
like,
mental meltdowns and okay,
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, right, yeah. I was gonna say though, that's the exception. Like
Yeah.
we see these
Yeah.
stories, and not to make it spiritual, but I think that happens too much in church or like in spirituality too, where we hear somebody's testimony and it's like incredible and miraculous, and we should hear it and be excited about it. But it's like we hear these stories of like instant healing or crazy life change or whatever, and we're like, that's amazing. And then we think, oh, that's now expected of me. That's now what
Yeah.
my faith should look like. And I'm like, I think that's the exception. I don't think that's the rule.
Hmm.
I think normal, like with any growth, with a sports skill or a music skill or a vocal skill, it's like it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work, and it might not work out. And there's a bunch of luck involved if you're going to be successful. And if that doesn't happen, you didn't fail to meet the expectation. You just weren't the exception to the norm, and that's like really okay. There's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that because you're already above standards of anything anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
but Bieber ruined it. Bieber and Woods, man, they killed
Burn
it.
Woods.
Ugh,
Yeah.
the
Gosh.
worst.
Do you think you're too busy for chiropractic care? Most of us spend our days racing from one thing to the next. It's work, it's kids, errands, late dinners, early alarms, but feeling better doesn't have to be one more thing you squeeze in. LSM Chiropractic makes it really easy. With early mornings, evenings, and even weekend appointment times, they design their schedule around real life, not the other way around. When you're dealing with pain, everything feels harder. Your focus, your patience, even the simple stuff like getting in and out of the car. LSM helps you get to the root of the problem, not just the symptoms, so you can move through your day with more energy, more ease, and more freedom. You deserve to feel good in your body, even on your busiest weeks. Don't let the daily grind hold you back. Schedule your visit today at lsmchiro.com.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. So, we know you're a big baseball fan. Some trends that are happening in the world. So, baseball, obviously, they're changing it to be a little bit faster. So, we've got the pitch clock, all these rules about pace and things like that. Are you a big fan of this and this change in culture to make that sport? I mean, I think slightly more approachable for people. What are your thoughts? I think this is like an easy softball question, but what are your feelings?
Softball question. I see what you
Softball
did there. That was
question on the
great.
Yeah.
baseball
That
question.
was such a layered question. My goodness. I guess, I mean, the short answer is I'm a fan of it. And actually,
Mhm.
not even that. I think people who have a problem with it need to pause and journey back from whatever standard of sport rules they're sticking to and saying this shouldn't change. I think you need to stop and journey back and be like, well, how much has changed since the origin of the sport to now that you're okay with, and yet not okay with the change from
Mm,
here moving forward. So, I mean, there's again, yeah, you look at the origin of a sport and there's constant
yeah.
changing to adapt for, health, like the athlete's health, to adapt for culture, to adapt for worldwide reach, to adapt to attention spans, to adapt to, I mean, unfortunately, money, the almighty dollar probably leads the way for most of those decisions, such as in baseball. The reason they made all these rules is because they wanted to generate more offense because that gets more viewership and that raises the prices of advertisement. So, like, one of the biggest changes they made was outlawing the shift in baseball, which was such a big problem because and it was great strategy, but teams would say, okay, we got four infielders. We're going to put three of them on that side of the infield because our data concludes that 81% of the time this batter is going to hit it left side
Mm.
of second base. So it was a brilliant strategy. The problem was it was like there was way fewer hits. There were so many more easy outs. It just became so much less entertaining. So MLB was like, well, we need to
Good
make our
job.
product
But
better
no.
by upping the offense, and so we're going to say you're not allowed to do that anymore. Same with the pitch clock. Like, baseball games getting 3+ hours most of the time being taken up by managers coming in and talking to the pitcher, and then they make a substitution. A guy comes in, faces one batter, then they go to the bullpen again. So it just was all
Mhm.
these like boring delays that was making a worse product for people watching. Oh yeah, so that was another one where now there's an allotted amount of mound visits for each manager or pitching coach. And if you bring in someone from the bullpen, they have to either finish the inning or face a minimum of three batters.
Mm.
So, because in the past, it's like they'd literally bring in a pitcher for one batter, bring in another pitcher for another batter. And, so that inning all of a sudden is like 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is just not entertaining. This is not
Yeah.
fun. So I think it's really appropriate. Not only that, but I mean, I think there's changes that need to happen just based on society. And so, because we live in a world now of slow-mo, of exactness, of, we have the ability to slow things down to a millisecond. That's just the world that we live in. And so, the fact that we have instant replay and can challenge calls, I think is totally appropriate because it makes for a worse product if you're watching something with the HD slow motion ability we have to see millions of people at home saying that was an incorrect call by that official. And sure, they're humans, they
Hmm.
can make mistakes, no problem. But we have the ability to now correct that mistake and make it accurate. Why would we not do
Hmm.
that in the name of fairness and in the name of
Hmm.
sports? You know what I mean? So it's slowly been going that way. And the purists who are like, no, umpires are the one to make the call. They need to be the one to do it. I'm like, I get that. That's a fond memory, but it makes the game less fun because you're
Yeah.
like, that was unfair.
Yeah. The
Like
people just want to be
that was
mad.
unfair. Dude, 100%. Yeah. But so baseball next year, they tried it out in the minor leagues
Yeah.
this past year, and they're implementing it this next year, which is the strike zone challenge system. And I think it's so brilliant because, I mean, especially with baseball, man, like
So
the
fast.
difference between a 1-2 count with two outs in the eighth inning and a 2-1 count is could be light years because then the batter's like changing the complete way they're looking at it. The pitcher's thinking completely different. The field, you know what I mean? Like that
Hmm.
could literally be the difference of a game, of an entire game when it comes down to it. And so fans watching and seeing a literal, like a factually incorrect call affecting the outcome of an inning, maybe affecting the outcome of a game, maybe affecting the outcome of a whole series, maybe a playoff series, that's just not okay anymore because we have the ability to correct it. So like why wouldn't we do that? Football is interesting too because football is getting to this point now where like kicking has become really interesting
Hmm.
in the how far kickers can kick it
Hmm.
now. Not only that, but this year the NFL added a rule where now kickers can use their own separate ball. In the past you weren't allowed to swap the balls. They had to use whatever ball was on the field. But now kickers can use their own ball and they can use that same ball throughout, like that same allotment of number of balls throughout the entire season. And so the softer they get, the more springy they get and the farther they'll get. So that's affecting kicking in a lot of ways where kickers are able to hit longer and longer field goals. Like I think
70-yard field goals.
in the preseason, there was a 70-yard field goal, which can't
That's
count as the record
insane.
because it was preseason.
Yeah.
But you think about how interesting that is because the NFL has also been changing rules as far as the touchback in the name of player safety. So they're
Hmm.
like, we don't want guys running 80 yards at full speed, running into somebody who's been running 20 yards at full speed. That's how concussions happen. That's how people get really, really hurt. So they, move the lineup for the kickoff. The touchback is now like at the 40, depending on where you kick it. And so if you look at the stats, you're like, okay, if there's a touchback, a team gets it at the 40, that's now, what do we had, 17 yards? That's like a 50, 67-yard field goal from
Yeah.
there. So you're like, okay, so from the touchback, a team goes three and out, they could still potentially kick a
It's
field goal
crazy.
and
Hmm.
score. That's not as good. That's like less entertaining in a way because there's less offense, and they're like, well, they're just going to kick it, and that's going to change the way that kickers are drafted, and it's going to change the way anyway. So they're kind of running into a problem where now they're
Too good.
yeah, the rules of the game are now conflicting with each other to make it a worse game. I mean, golf is doing the same thing. There's going to be a rule in a couple of years where the rule on how bouncy a golf ball can be is going to change because there's players who are able to hit it 300 plus yards every single drive. And so it's way less entertaining to watch a pro go from driver to nine iron on a hole that's 450 yards. And you're like, I want to see a guy have to hit a six iron
Hmm.
as an amateur because I can't hit that shot. So that's like way less fun for me. Anyway, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. Like as technology develops, as fan interest develops, yeah, for sure, 100% there needs to be changes. I mean, not all of them are great, but I do think the goal of any like big sports organization is to make the most entertaining product. Their goal is money, and I get that. But if it's going to result in a more entertaining product, then me as a fan, I'm just going to enjoy it more So great. Yeah. Like if you're going to make it more enjoyable and arguably more fair based on the technology we have, I think that makes for a better sport. I think it makes for a better product.
So
So
what you're
I'm in
saying
favor.
is you're a traditionalist. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He just gave us every reason to believe that he loves
You were
the
not
change.
listening.
I mean, think it like everything does that. Companies do that. Why
Mhm.
we wouldn't say to we wouldn't say to an accounting company like, well, we're sticking with the abacus. We really
Yeah,
feel like just the
way to
physical
go.
touch of we've got
Mhm.
our Texas Instruments because we don't want, I mean, it's just like, why would you
Wow.
stick, if you can do better with what's developing, it's just going to make for a better experience
There is a
overall.
whole group of people who just heard that and they're like, what did he just say?
Abacus.
Abacus and Texas Instruments. Everybody was like, skirt, what?
I'm
What's
gonna
that?
need to chat GPT that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go to wikioldpeople.com and you'll figure out what that's like. Well, what about you? So let me ask you guys, what have you noticed the difference in watching like bigger sports as they've changed the rules? Like have you noticed it for the good or bad, or have you not necessarily noticed it and it's just like, yeah, it's still just a fun game to watch, or you're like, I just don't like watching that sport anyway, no
Mm.
matter what they change.
I think it's interesting hearing people complain about it. Like I find that entertaining. Like I'm like, why are people so grumpy? People are just so
So mad.
grumpy. And because that's what people don't understand is in 2 years, they're gonna totally forget that this change happened and they're gonna
Yeah.
be on to the next thing, right? It's gonna feel normal. So I'm always entertained by the people because I'm like, I'm an advocate of change, right? Like if it's not working, let's do something different. Let's try, right? Like it doesn't always feel comfortable. Like watching the two in football in the kickoff, watching them stand next to each other and just stare at each other, it's awkward. It still feels uncomfortable for me to watch, but I get
Are they
it.
playing Red Rover? I'm confused.
Oh
What's
my
the
gosh, great reference. Great reference.
They're all
Everybody's
holding
got
hands
to
like, okay,
chat
guys, hold it
GPT that
tight.
one
They're
too.
coming. They're
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. I do get a little bit annoyed that we can't do it like an onside kick like at all. Like that partly bothers me just because
Hmm.
football is
Hmm.
so like it's not like basketball where there's so many different possessions, right? Like football, there's like almost always like a pretty much an equal amount of possessions per team, right? Like,
Hmm.
so that bothers me just a slight bit, but other than that, like I get it and I get the safety of it. So I don't know. It's funny to me to watch people complain and argue about it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm.
Amber, for you?
I mean, I figure if these sports are changing things to increase viewership, i.e., make more money, then they're making changes that I want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
go right
agree.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if a restaurant's like, hey, we're gonna start ordering higher quality ingredients to get more customers. You're like, okay, yeah, they're doing that to make
Down,
money, but also
down
I'm
for
gonna get
that.
a better meal.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
feels like win-win. Actually, speaking of basketball, this is so interesting. I was listening to a podcast this past week, and they were saying how, unlike almost every other sport, basketball is facing this problem where the end of competitive games are so anticlimactic because of the amount of
Mm-hmm.
timeouts and fouls and shots and
Fouls.
stuff like
I
that.
hate
It's
that.
like so laborious. I mean, Lindsay jokes, if there's a basketball game on and she sees there's 2 minutes left in the game, she's like, all right, I'll see you in 40 minutes.
Right.
Just she knows it's gonna take so long.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, that's a good point. They do just kind of fizzle out. Like other games, there's like last minute kicks or,
Mhm.
the bottom of the ninth, guy on third. But, I
Yeah.
mean, there's always this like potential tension, like the game ends on kind of a high note or just like an emotional. And basketball is not that. If it's close, it's like super tedious and really, really boring. So there's discussion now about adjusting the rules for when you can foul and the penalty for fouling
Mm.
under 2 minutes or whatever. Like they're exploring potential rules to try to
Interesting.
make the game better, honestly, to make it like
Yeah.
more interesting and more fun for fans.
Yeah, they're doing that in college. Less like reviews. Like the officials can't review as often, like out of bounds calls and stuff like that. So they are trying to
Oh,
make
sure,
it
yeah.
less of that like clock man or going to the table and talking and whatever. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
good. I personally love basketball and that doesn't bother me. I think growing up in
Oh,
a
really?
basketball family, my dad was a basketball coach my whole life. So that like the timeouts and stuff, people always complain about that. Amber is one. It doesn't bother me. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm like,
Okay, hold
it's
on.
part of it.
It bothers me, I think, most because very rarely, like when you get to that point and there's like the fouling and the whatever, and the free throws, usually there's one team that's down by maybe 3 or 4 points. At least in my basketball watching career, it is so rare that the lead actually switches. So I have to go through that 40 minutes or however long it is to just end up with the same team on top. I'm like,
Yeah.
if there were a higher likelihood that that strategy worked, I'd be more interested. Like maybe he's gonna miss that. No, but they like pretty much always make the free throws, so it doesn't actually help. The team just gets further ahead. It
I
doesn't.
know it's so hard. And I mean, that's like football. Like, Taryn, you said about the onside kick. Like, that's the only option that team
Yeah.
has. It's like we're down. We won't win conventionally. So the
Mm-mm.
only option we have is this 2.5%
Right.
chance of changing the lead, but we're going to do it because otherwise it's a 0% chance. But it makes for like it's like a
Yeah.
lame
I just wish it was more like a
ending.
25% chance, right? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying give it to them, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's part of the game that this team was up and therefore like you didn't do enough to stay close to
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like I think a 20 to 25% chance that you can get that ball back would be more exciting to watch for me. So, I don't know. If you can move them
But
back
it makes
5
sense because, I
yards or
mean,
whatever.
truly, like NBA games do end anticlimactically. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think you can argue that. And
Yeah.
again, if you think that's fine, that's great. But it's interesting that the league is like, how can we end
Yeah.
it on a much more fun, fun
Yeah.
note?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Finding the right job can feel a lot like stepping into a brand new arena. Exciting, uncertain, and full of potential. That's where CareerLink AI comes in. Think of it as your game plan for what's next, helping you build new skills, sharpen your strengths, and make smart moves towards the career you actually want. Over 1 million people have already used CareerLink's tools to land roles that truly fit. Take control of your next chapter by clicking the link in our show notes to get started.
All right, Dugan, we've got a couple of wrap up questions for you. First one
Okay.
is most overrated sports tradition and most underrated sports tradition.
Oh, geez. Overrated sports tradition. So, what do you mean by tradition?
Could be like
Like,
a superstition or like a tradition or like
Mhm.
like the a good example would be like a tradition would be like the octopus on the ice at the Red Wings games.
oh no, I think that's awesome. I love that.
I know that's great.
Because it makes the fan has to have to smuggle in an octopus. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you can do it, you deserve to
They're
throw it. I mean,
keistering it. They're keistering it in. Can you imagine?
it's like drugs crossing the border. That's so funny. You know what I've never understood? The hat trick where fans throw their hats on the rink. I love the tribute, and that's so awesome. But I'm like, I'm not gonna throw my hat. Like new era hats are like $30. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna chuck my hat onto the ice just
No.
because this guy scored a bunch.
We did a whole episode on this and there's
Oh,
some
did you?
yeah, there's like was it a whole episode or was it just like a part of it? But there's like some certain like hockey rinks do different things with the hats. So some of them like donate them, some of them put them in this
Oh,
big bowl so that your hat is now like in this big like cylinder or whatever so you can like find your hat.
that's like it just sits in the stadium,
Yeah. Yeah. So just
dude.
like
That's
different
awesome.
places do different things. I think that's interesting.
I love that. Um,
Do you have any underrated
well, I
Cubs
mean,
ones?
it's going to be a little subjective.
Yeah, that's fair.
But so this one bugs me, and I don't know why. This just makes me sound like a crotchety person. But in baseball, there's some teams where, and I don't know how this started, but if a player hits a home run, when they get back to the dugout, there's some sort of like costume piece. Have you seen this? That
Hmm.
yeah. So like the Mariners, they hand them a trident for like
Oh.
merman, like a trident. The Dodgers, no. The Blue Jays, I think, have this big like biker jacket with all these decals on it. Some of them, it's like a big hat. Some of them, it's like something they hold. And I just think it's dumb. I don't understand it.
So
I just think it's
crotchety.
so silly. Yeah, it's just like this guy just scored for your team. You're gonna make him put this thing on or
So
carry this thing
embarrassing.
around. Like, just go high five your teammate. And so I think that's weird. I'm glad the Cubs don't do it. There's a lot of teams that don't do it. The Cubs are one of them. I'm like, please don't have some stupid like put these bear claws on because you hit a home run. We're so proud of you. I don't get it. I think it's really weird.
I just
The one that
realized that you're the Bears and the Cubs. Why did that just click in my brain?
oh, like it's the same animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
they
know.
were history and they were named. It wasn't really like connected at the time, but
Is
yeah.
there any, I wonder if there's any other sports teams that are like that. I doubt it.
Probably not, because what would you be like? Horses
Well,
with
like
ponies,
birds.
or
Could be birds.
like
The
mama bird?
foals
No,
and the and the
The
birds
horses,
and
chicks.
the
the
birds and the
kids and the
chicks.
goats. Thinking of all the
Yeah.
names of.
Yeah.
Kids and the goats.
Mhm.
Calf and the heifers. That's probably a bad one.
The lions and
I
the
don't know what.
cubs that could have worked if it was a
Oh.
if it was a lion
Oh yeah,
cub.
that's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Because
That was
cub is for a lot of, yeah.
creative.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. Well
Thank you.
done.
Okay. Anyway, sorry,
I
I
think the one
distracted you.
tradition, the one tradition I can't believe still exists is that there's fighting in hockey.
Mm.
Mm.
I I don't understand. I don't care. It's not. It doesn't faze me. I'm just like, we live in a world where, in the sport of football, arguably the most violent sport in existence, you get penalized for holding someone. Like, you can't hold him. You can't hold him, or you hit him too hard. That was inappropriate contact. We're gonna throw a flag. And yet in hockey, we're like, we're just gonna let these grown men punch each other in the helmet for a few
Yeah.
minutes and then
It's
eventually
crazy.
break it up. I mean, I know they're doing it less and less. It's just such a weird. I was like, I can't believe this exists in today's day and age. Where
Did
it's
you
like
see the
we're gonna let.
game, the Canadian versus US game, where there was like 3 fights in 9 seconds of the game?
No, I believe it. It's so odd. It's up to the ref's discretion to go, all right, now these adult children, I'm gonna break it up on the playground. It's so weird to me. It's so funny.
That
It's
is
just like,
so funny.
we're with how crazy we crack down on just the most obnoxious penalties, and yet like, yeah, in hockey they can just fight.
Yeah.
We're just gonna let them work it out.
Nah.
Boys will be boys,
Knock out
and
their teeth.
yeah. So it's so weird to me. I don't get. It's a funny tradition. I don't know why that still exists.
Yeah.
And if that exists, we should just have it in every sport. Just let, like, every sport, you get 2 minutes of full contact fighting. I'm
Yeah.
in. I'm all for it.
In
I've
football,
never
they
thought
just
about
spit on
that
each other.
compared to football.
Oh, dude,
The
yeah,
spitting this year is out of control.
for real.
So
And Jamar
gross.
Chase
Yes.
denied it. He goes, I didn't spit at anybody. And there's a video of like,
Like,
you really clearly did.
I saw this like Instagram of like reel of it, and this guy was like, they're pretending to be each other. He's like, I didn't do it. He's like, it's in 4K. We can see it. It's right here.
Coming out of your mouth.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Too much spitting.
I mean, yeah, spitting is gross. Like, just
So
shove them or something.
gross.
Spitting is like really
It's the
the
most
lowest form of.
disrespectful thing you can do, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question. If you could sit front row at any sporting event in the world, what would you
Oh my
choose?
gosh. Probably the Olympic curling trials. Um, no, no,
We just had an
kidding.
Olympic curler on.
We did. It looks
Olympic
so
curling,
fun.
I watched it one time to make fun of it, and then I just got really into it.
That's
So now I
amazing.
just watch it.
That's amazing. It's great.
Also, what's a fun game to play if you go to like the Olympic team website is, you can play a game called Olympic Curler or Stay at Home Parent. It's real hard to tell.
Totally the
Super
same.
hard to
It's the
tell.
same person.
Yep, 100%.
Same person.
Oh my gosh, if I could pick.
You can pick the scenario too, right? So
Well, yeah, I mean,
Cubs in the World
mm,
Series.
it'd be between the Game 7 Cubs World Series, I guess any game. Any game of a Cubs World Series at Wrigley, or Bears in the Super Bowl. So I don't I that would be a if I had to pick between those two, that would be really difficult. Probably, oh geez.
He can't.
I don't know. I don't know how
Nope.
to do that. Gosh, I don't know how to pick between them. I can't pick between them.
The Super Bowl would be hard because you don't even know where you're going to be at, right? You could be in Vegas, you could be in Arizona, you could be in
Yeah,
San
I mean, but
Francisco.
maybe that could sway it, because like Game 7 of the World Series, we're talking like early November, and if Cubs have home field advantage, that's in Chicago. But just to be there would be on like once in a lifetime. Goodness gracious, I can't pick. It's like picking my favorite kid. I can't do it. At least not publicly.
Yeah, that's
At
right,
least
right,
not.
exactly.
At least not with a paper trail. I don't know, what's your guys' answer? I want to Same question. What would you say?
Obviously, for me, it would be the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Don't care where, I want to be there.
That's so dumb because they've been there like a billion times.
It's been a rough few years, Dugan. I mean, come
Okay,
on.
calm down. You had the greatest football
Yeah.
player of all time on your team forever. Just
Well, I
chill.
mean,
You're fine.
debatable, but
It's
I
not
don't
Brett
think so,
Favre,
is it?
so
Who's better than Brady?
I don't know. I just try to poop on Brady as often as possible.
as often as you can.
He's a weird guy, but he's for sure the GOAT, 100%.
He's fine. Everybody just relax. But yeah, that's what I would choose. What would you choose, Amber?
I'd probably do Super Bowl. Packers. Doesn't really matter where.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the Packers is the oldest NFL team that still has its original name and location? They've never changed it since 1919. They've never changed their name or location.
That surprises me.
Every other team, yeah, changed something, yeah.
But didn't the Packers used to play in, am I thinking of the baseball team? Oh, no, yeah, because the Packers, don't they have a game that they play in Milwaukee every year or something? What am I thinking?
No,
They
but
used to play.
their home season tickets are divided
That's it. Yes.
between Green Bay and then Milwaukee ticket holders.
Yes. Okay. That's what I was thinking
Oh, I
of.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have
Yeah.
like a game, like a couple games or a game at least every year where the Milwaukee
Something like that.
ticket
Yeah.
holders get to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Something. Two of my uncles are still season ticket holders. We have, I think, 6 tickets in our family and have for
Owners.
50, 60, 70, 80 plus years. I'm not really sure how long.
Oh no,
a
that
long,
doesn't
long time.
necessarily make them owners, does it? You have to have the other thing to be an owner.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
certificate.
think you're
They're
right.
season ticket holders. I don't think they're a
But I
Different.
do
partial
I
owner.
do think the waiting list for Packers season tickets is the longest of any team in any sport.
Yeah. I
Crazy.
think you're right.
It's like 100 years. So,
That's the only place I've ever seen an NFL game is at Lambeau.
oh yeah, I've never been. I would love to go. I've heard it's fantastic. I would love to go.
Highly recommend going like mid-September. It's perfect.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for sure.
Gotta go November.
No.
You can't. You gotta like not feel your toes. Otherwise,
No.
it's not a real Packers game.
Oh,
I'm out.
that's so then I just picture my couch. I'm like, I wish I was there.
I know. And you get to listen to like Tony Romo telling you what's happening. Like I prefer that.
I don't want to listen to Tony Romo, but I'll listen to other people.
Oh, rude. Oh.
All right,
Oh.
Dugan, bring this home for us. Tell us your biggest hope for the future of sports.
Wow. Wrap that up in 30 seconds too,
man,
could you?
that is a
I'm ready
really
to go.
interesting question.
It's like no pressure.
My biggest hope for the future of sports. Goodness, that's a great question. And I have to say it succinctly, don't I?
Not required.
Well, I guess the one thing that truly, truly bothers me about professional athletes, but I also have a lot of grace for it. It's just when pro athletes act in a way that's such an incredibly poor example for kids, like for young fans. Like I just think, when there's any pro athlete, like the spitting thing. I mean, like that's just so rude and unbelievably offensive. And they're in a position that millions and millions of like young children get their persona and how they play sports, with the culture of kids sports, like they play it with this attitude of like aggression and dominance and take the other team down. So, but I was gonna say the grace I give all athletes is unfortunately most of them are ushered suddenly into the spotlight at an age where I wasn't mature at 18, 19, 20.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and they're put in this position where, I mean, in a lot of ways, they don't have to grow up in a way
Mhm.
that the vast majority of society does. And so I give them a lot of grace because you're like, man, you're put in this position where you're just kind of a product of your environment of a lot of yes people. And once you get there, it's like
Mhm.
you cater to, and it's a lot of money and it's a lot of attention. And it's a lot of so I'm like, you're not really forced to mature in a lot of ways. So on one hand, I'm like, gosh, that's such a hard position to be in. And yet when an athlete can be an example of character and good sportsmanship, and like one of my favorite things ever, it's so rare. One of my favorite things ever in mostly like basketball or football is when an opposing player helps another player off the field. I'm like, that is the coolest thing
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
ever. And it's so incredibly rare. I mean, most of the time they'll like as a dig, like step over the player they just leveled as like an extra, put down. I mean, so I,
Mhm.
I just think for the
Yeah.
future of sports, man, if we could model good sportsmanship in a way that just I think makes sports a whole lot more fun, that would be great. But again, I understand it's so hard for these athletes who get drafted crazy young and
Yeah.
don't have the time to
Yeah.
learn, good character because their whole lives have been focused on getting to where they're at, which I understand.
Yeah. They say once you get famous, whatever age you are when you get famous, that's like how when you stop maturing. Like they say that about
Yeah,
like
I believe
a
that.
lot of child actors and stuff like that. It's like, well, they're still, Justin Bieber, we talked about him. He's still 13, basically.
Well, we don't have to get into this now, but the statistics on how many former pro athletes go bankrupt within like 5 years
Right.
of their tenure is shocking. It's
Right.
like 83% or
Yeah.
something because they didn't have to learn budgeting or money
Mhm.
management. It's just like, hey, you're 21, here's $8 million.
Mhm.
They're just going to blow it right then. We can get into that. I've that's been a fun study. There's like some really interesting stuff about
Yeah.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel for them, but I'm like, man, if you could model good sportsmanship, that would be huge.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dugan, thank you so much. We always love having you on. Thanks for
Thank you
taking
for having me
time.
back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we wouldn't dream of it. We were like, who could we have on? Easy question, Dugan. We love him.
I mean, and I have notes, and I didn't even get to half of them. Okay,
Oh,
so we've got to do it
sorry.
again.
We got to do it again.
Oh
Sounds
no,
good.
don't be sorry.
Next time,
I
next
had to
time
look up. I
Dugan
didn't know why
interviews
the
us.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have trivia and stuff. Like, do you know why the quarterback is called a quarterback? I didn't. I had
No.
to look it up. It was fascinating. Well,
What?
that's for next time. There's a tease.
Oh,
Teaser.
cliffhanger.
You're the best.
Wow, well done.
Oh my gosh. We'll get back to your kids and their Roblox. Is that what it is?
Roblox. Yeah, there's an admin event happening that I'm going to go join my son
All
in.
right. We'll get to that.
Sounds
We
good.
appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you, guys.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Almost Fans. Huge thanks again to Dugan for coming back and giving us another conversation that was equal parts thoughtful, hilarious, and genuinely grounding. It's episodes like this where we zoom out, dig in, and remember why sports shape so much of our lives that make this show such a joy to create. If you got a moment, please give our show a 5-star rating and write a quick review. Just a couple of words. It is truly the single best thing that you can do to help Almost Fans reach more listeners. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.